Ben, lovely to meet you. I'd love to start with a little bit of an introduction.
Sure thing. You got me first thing in the morning. I think it's 1:30 a.m. for me right now. So if I mess up or anything, it'll all come out in the edit, right? Yeah. So my name is Ben Hillman. I'm the executive producer of Paddle Studios, the media arm of Paddle. Yeah. Is there anything you want me to go in deep on there?
Maybe talk a little about Paddle, just so that our viewers can understand a little bit about Paddle, what it does, what's the kind of problem that it solves.
Sure. Yeah. We similar to sort of like we facilitate payments and accept payments and that sort of thing, and as well as manage the sales tax of different transactions, as opposed to maybe like a billing system where it's like, you're paying directly to the merchant, whereas we are the merchant of record, so all of our customers' customers are paying us. Definitely gets very confusing, and I could probably work on my pitch of what Paddle is for sure. So,
but it takes away a lot of the kind of friction, because if you're a SaaS vendor, you're selling to lots of countries.
For sure,
it takes away a lot of that admin, right?
And to tell you the truth, like to get into a little bit here, a lot of my job isn't actually selling the product itself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help out our customers. I'm trying to understand what our customers' problems are. See if I can make any videos or like deep dive research on what those problems are, and then see if I can find solutions. And if I can't find solutions, I'll speak to folks and like either get them on camera or through research, and end up delivering like some videos that way. So again, that's I think where my pitch could use some work, is that it's like I'm really not trying to sell Paddle.
No, but I think that's
directly.
A good place to approach it, right? And I think starting with content production, where you're focused on trying to identify the areas that your customers aren't fully understanding or confused, and then creating content to address that is a great place to start. So, I mean, talk a little bit more about your kind of role in Paddle on the content side.
Yeah, sure. So I lead the video team. There's 3 of us, including myself. We have, there's Steve, who's like my lead producer sort of thing, who does a lot of the editing and the active like work of putting a lot of these videos together. And then Brett, who works on our like the graphics and the visual look and feel of everything. And so my role is through, if they need help with anything specifically, like I kind of fill in the roles and that sort of thing, as well as serve as on-air talent for the most part, and facilitating what we're doing. We're in the planning stages right now, a lot for like 2025. Yeah. So it's a lot of focusing on working on current projects, but also thinking a lot of like, okay, what are we going to be doing, and how that's changing and that sort of thing. So
yeah, no, it's almost like your own in-house production company, I guess, because that's the standard that SaaS companies are kind of having to reach for now, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, we will help out the other teams where a lot of like we'll have partnerships, come through just like any other company, and we'll do webinars just like any other company, and where I try and sort of like take a little bit of a spin on it differently is if we can do a separate interview, like with usually the subject matter of the webinar, and then we will create like a 5 to 10 minute video using them as sort of like the expert reference point. And I just spoke to someone earlier who recognized me from LinkedIn sort of thing, of being in one of those videos sort of things, and so that's what we're just trying to do, is like, can we, if we don't know the answers, can we associate ourselves with people who do know the answers, so that it builds that credibility and builds that trust.
Yeah, and you would have had Patrick from Profitwell again, who would have been very heavy on actually video production and video content, and I guess you guys have done a good job at sort of cutting through and sort of coming up with a distinct and unique kind of tone, so that's pretty impressive to say the least. Yeah. Is there any kind of piece of content that you did that stands out, Ben, that you think actually that was a really great piece of content that we produced?
Yes. Yeah, there's a few from this year, I will say. So we started this strategy sort of like intentionally at the beginning of this year. We used to be known for, you mentioned Patrick, and at Profitwell, of like making different shows for different audiences. And now we're trying to make like, doing the most with like the little that we have with, we're not strapped for resources, but we've gone a little more broad. And so one of those broadly focused sort of things was around the $1.50 hot dog at Costco in the States, and how that relates to their pricing strategy, actually, and how it's very relevant to software and subscription companies to be able to have something like that. So yeah, I just had a lot of fun making that video.
And how do you think about our audiences actually? Because that's an interesting one. That will be very relevant to a US audience, probably less so to an international audience. So I guess that part of the journey must be trying to think about the personas and the viewers, not just in terms of geography, but in terms of their demographics, where they're based, different personas.
Yes. Well, I will say, so funny enough, Paddle as a company, like we do decently well with like rest of world.
Yeah.
But US is where we're just trying to convince folks that's like, no, actually you do have to pay sales tax. Like, and even if you're selling somewhere else, you do have to pay the sales tax there, which they can very easily, get away with that, and it only really becomes a problem when you go public or when you get acquired. So a lot of second-time founders we find use Paddle. But specifically, with the US, that's like the focus of a lot of what our content is because we kind of do okay with rest of world, and so when I make these videos, I'm using dollars, I'm saying line instead of Q, like I'm not, it's very intentional speaking to a US audience.
I think that makes perfect sense too, right? Because the domestic US market is so big, a lot of SaaS companies, when they start off, if you're in Europe, that's the market you want to get into, but if you're domestic in the US, you can be quite comfortable building market share there without having to worry about Europe and Asia so much until you start getting a little bit bigger and people are looking at due diligence and making sure you've got due process. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Talk us a little bit about some tips or advice that you might have for sort of less well-resourced startups, right? So again, the world I occupy is often seed, Series A, not as far along on the journey. Video content is going to be increasingly important. What are some things they should be thinking about that if they don't have the team size or resources, if let's say you guys, what are some of the tips you think that would be good for earlier startups? I mean,
start small. Like it's really simple advice. A lot of people will ask me sometimes like, what camera should I use? I'm like, use your phone. If you've never used like video gear before, start with your phone, make short videos. We've actually seen a lot of success just from vanity metrics of like views with our YouTube shorts specifically, and so I think it's like a really easy, hey, I have an idea for something, I'm just going to talk to this camera, put it out there, and if it sucks, if it stinks, and nobody sees it, why is that a problem? Nobody saw it, so you can just get to the next idea. And
I think it's a good point, just get going, right? And
just start and adapt from there. You don't need to have, I've found when we have huge plans sort of things that it's usually when this sort of ad hoc thing comes up that does really well, and we're like, oh crap, this plan doesn't make sense, so start small.
Tell me, Ben, changing tack slightly, where do you think about from a distribution or platform point of view? So what are some of the, obviously there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's LinkedIn, all of the above. So where do you kind of typically post? What do you think about from a distribution point of view?
Yeah, we have a email list of, I think it's like around 10,000. I think it's a little bit less than 10,000 now. Folks that are opted in to like Paddle emails, specifically the Paddle Studios side of things, and so we'll send out, whenever we post a video, we'll send out to that audience to get distribution that's like, they're clicking on the site, they're on the site, so we get the like session metrics of that on that end, and then we'll also post to YouTube, we'll post YouTube Shorts, and also simultaneously post those to LinkedIn as well, and then we use Sprout Social on the like employee advocacy side as well. And then it helps also if we're partnering with if we have a partner that we're working with, trying to use their distribution as well, where it's like the exchange is, we're going to give you this really high quality piece of content. Love it if you could share it out with your audience.
Yeah, curious a little bit about the employee advocacy thing just for a second. So that's just using the power of your own employees to distribute the content, I guess, is it?
Yeah, it's for folks that aren't familiar, we will basically upload those short videos or like a trailer for a longer form video that and it's not just Paddle Studios content as well. It's like if we have a webinar that we're promoting or an ebook that we're promoting or something like that, that folks can log in and they'll see there's a suggested copy or something like that where they can post to LinkedIn or X, and that's just been helpful, I think, to be able to get folks to share it out as well.
Yeah, I guess it's leveraging the power of the network of these people. So some of them will be very active on things like LinkedIn, and sort of it's just extending the reach, I guess.
And if you've never posted to LinkedIn before, on there's people that will share once and get more engagement than I have on whatever, and it's just because they're kind of used to me, the algorithm or anything like that. So it's helpful to, even if folks don't even think that they have an audience, you never know. Yeah, you never know what's going to get out there.
Do you think it all been around paid distribution versus organic? Do you do a mix? Do you focus on organic?
We don't do any paid.
You don't do any paid, so you don't...
We did, I will say, for some of our shows, we had a show called Born Global that we did at the last SaaStock, and we did do some paid distribution around that, but I don't even think I ever saw the results of that or anything, so no, we're just trying to get that organic reach, and genuinely, I'm trying to have conversations with people. I'm not trying to like sell necessarily. It's something I'd love to look into, but it's, so mostly organic.
I guess the tricky thing is why I was asking the question is that there's increasingly some of these platforms that the organic reach isn't quite as strong as it used to be.
Right.
So you could have a very high follower count, for example, but the algorithm is deliberately not showing it to all your followers because it's trying to push you down the paid route. So I guess in marketing, we've always got to be keeping an eye on that, right?
Well, I think also having a regular, like for our YouTube Shorts, we're on a break right now, but we post like every other day for those.
Okay.
And having, so if that appointment scheduling, viewing sort of thing is also helpful for your audience.
Just changing tack again, talking about, let's say, measurement. We touched on it a little bit here now. So what are the sorts of metrics around engagement that you're judged by, or KPIs that you're saying, actually, these are what we got to report on?
Yeah, I mean, we track our views, we track our reach, we track our views, engagement, conversion is kind of the three like main pillars that I'm looking at. Are we getting people in the door? When they're getting in the door, are they actually sticking around and watching the whole thing? And then are we convincing them enough that they're ending up converting to becoming a customer? But nothing beats coming here to SaaStock, honestly. I was just here earlier and someone recognized me from LinkedIn, and it's like, okay, clearly that has worked. Like that's worth more than like 20,000 views on something, is having someone come up to you. And I'll get DMs every once in a while of people like, love your stuff sort of thing. And so that's the number one metric, I will say.
I think Patrick would have been a strong advocate. Patrick Campbell would have been a strong advocate of that approach, a big fan of SaaStock.
100%. That's
regular
that's
attendee.
That's why I have a job, honestly, is that sort of thing,
Excellent. That's pretty much it. Any kind of closing remarks from you? Any final thoughts? Any advice you want to give SaaStock people? I think the key message is just go and try it, right? And don't worry about the production quality or the budgets. Just go try, start producing, start testing and learning.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I'm one of my biggest problems is when someone says one thing and does another, and I recognize that me saying like, hey, start small sort of thing is like, what we're putting out there is not by any means entry-level video creating sort of thing. And I don't say this from an ego point of view thing, but it's like, we've been doing this for so long that like myself and my team especially, Steve Sarasoli, I need to absolutely shout out, who is on my team, who does a lot of this work to make it look high quality sort of thing. It's just because we've been doing that for so long. And we have we've already started small sort of thing, but I promise you can see, if someone sees this and they want to see one of my earlier videos, I will share it with you and show you where I came from sort of thing. It's really just get out there and start and put something out there, and it stinks. It's going to feel awkward. I don't know anyone that's just like made one video and then been like amazing. You can make a video and just not distribute it.
Yeah.
That's fine too, so. Yeah.
100% right, and a great place to finish this. And Ben, thank you so much. Really enjoyed the chat.
Of course, yeah, thanks for having me.